You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now.
Hello there, I am JJ Bull and I'm an analyst for Tifo, and we're going to look at the Champions League final between Chelsea and Manchester City, which could be a fascinating tactical battle. But before we do that, it would be wonderful if you could subscribe to our brand new channel, which is called Tifo IRL. It's just Tifo, but in real life. And we do lots of these videos with our lovely tactics board, which you can see sort of playing with just now. Yeah, brand new channel, please come over, give the video a like. You can also subscribe to the main Tifo channel if you haven't done that yet. Basically, the world is your internet YouTube subscription oyster. And on that bad note, we're going to move on to the actual video. So let's start with what Chelsea are probably going to look like and how they're going to play. Thomas Tuchel has a reputation of something of a tactical chameleon because he has a long tongue and lives in a tree. But also he uses lots of different tactical systems, or has done over his career. The thing he settled on at Chelsea, and we can pretty much guarantee he's going to use this, is this 3-4-3. Now, it's changed a little bit in different games, but against Manchester City, this is roughly what he's used in the couple of games he's played against them, and probably we're going to see. Azpilicueta is going to be right centre-back, Silva will be in the middle, you're going to have Antonio Rudiger on the left. A couple of things that might change. Ben Chilwell might not be in, it might be Marcus Alonso who comes in, specifically because he's very good at attacking set pieces. Also, he has a tendency to get into the box and kind of act like almost like a 9 at certain times, and that could be useful. One of the things Chelsea do a lot is switch the play. They like to switch it from side to side, let it play through the lines very quickly. Reece James will almost certainly be at right wing back. Then you're going to have N'Golo Kante, who has been one of the players of the season, absolutely love him. Jorginho kind of makes everything tick over in the midfield, passing the ball around. Kante will join the high press and act as more of a box-to-box midfielder. He gets up and down an awful lot. He's a lot more attacking than people maybe think he is. Now, Christian Pulisic, I think, is going to play. There's a chance that Hakim Ziyech could come in instead, specifically because he's very good on the ball and good at passing it out and spraying these diagonal balls that Tuchel likes. But I think Pulisic's going to play because of the way Manchester City play, and they have a very high line, which Chelsea also do. But because of City's high line, Chelsea will look to get balls over the top often and into the channels often, and Christian Pulisic can do that from the right. You can have Timo Werner doing it from the left. We'll look at some of the runs he makes in a second. The key, I think, to all of it for Chelsea is Mason Mount, who is just a phenomenal player. So impressive this season. He plays as a 10, but he also drops into the midfield when he needs to. What he also does is floats around. He'll pull out to the left sometimes of Werner. He might also pull out to the right of Pulisic. He just floats wherever he's needed, helps overload a certain side, and hugely tactically intelligent. Great first touch. He just makes the right decision every single time, and he's superb at it. What we should look at is the kind of thing that they're going to look to do with Werner especially. So we have, let's say, City are going to play a high defensive line. So let's say they're playing a 4. So even when City when they're pressing high up the pitch, obviously they'll be much higher up, and your centre-backs will push right up here like this. But when Chelsea have the ball, say they win a turnover roundabout where Jorginho is here, the defence will retreat ever so slightly. So round about here, the fullbacks might come back, something like this. But what Werner will often do is not always try and get in behind to, say Jorginho is making this kind of long ball. So, it sounds quite basic, this kind of long pass for him to get onto. That's one option. But what Werner also does is he runs out to these areas here, so you can change the way that this arrow, or the pass even goes. So you can make this sort of thing. That's quite a bendy pass. He's very good at doing it. Like Roberto Carlos in La Tournoi, but with his right foot. I'm gonna stop talking about that now. So, yeah, these sorts of in-out runs are really important because it gets Chelsea up the pitch. So getting in behind to the centre is obviously going to be really beneficial to them, and Pulisic can do the same thing, get in these positions here. But you will often see is that, say Pulisic drops in here, Werner will come in and run into the space that he's vacated, and it's all to do with taking advantage of Werner's pace. So although he misses a lot of chances, like he does not score as many goals as his expected goals suggest he should, his movement and his runs are excellent. Does get caught offside now and again. The runs that Werner and Pulisic make are are really important to how Chelsea want to play. They stay quite compact as a unit from front to back, so vertically they're quite compact. They will press high, and in fact, we'll show you how that works. So Mount will come up here, and this is where Kante joins in like this, you see. And they're really, really aggressive. It's all about intensity, energy, and controlling the play. And they often go man-to-man as well. It changes from game to game depending on the opposition. But what happens is that, like, Werner will look after these two players here. Mount will be in amongst here. Maybe pull out here if he needs to. You're going to have Kante looking after these sorts of areas. Pulisic's going to be over here. They're going to cover the passing lanes, and they're also going to get tight to men. So then what will often happen, we'll pull some more players out into the pitch. This is a 4-4-2 they're playing against. So James, right wing back, he'll get really aggressive and push right up. And that'll be the same for Chilwell or Alonso on the other side. Really aggressive, push right up. Look how high the line is. And they're trying to trap the team they're playing against into their own defensive third, force a clearance, something like that. What does happen from time to time is that because they are very aggressive, say you've got a forward round about here and he drops in, Rudiger will go with him, stay really tight. Forward wants to drop in here, as Piliqueta will get to him really tight. Man to man, it means that it's very difficult for the team on the ball to play through them or out of danger. So they'll often just, if they're playing out from the back, they'll just have to launch it long, Chelsea retreat, win the ball back, and that's where they go again. And that's sort of how Chelsea, I think, are going to play. So I want to look at how this sort of plays out for Chelsea and what we might see in the Champions League final against Manchester City. They have played, under Tuchel, they played them twice, and Chelsea have won both times. Once in an FA Cup semi-final, obviously a big game, and they won 1-0. And the second one was in the league, and they beat Manchester City 2-1. So well done, Chelsea. Now, the goal I want to look at particularly is in the FA Cup semi-final and how they scored against them there. So we mentioned earlier about how Werner's runs in behind are really important against City's high line. They had a goal disallowed early on in the first half when Werner got in behind. Just made one of these sorts of, one of these runs in behind, and after a mistake from Diaz on the line, got over here and was able to pass it inside for Ziyech to score. But Werner was offside. He was offside. So what happened for the actual goal in the same game was all the things we see from Chelsea all the time. So they stay quite compact. They know they're going to play against Manchester City, who have a high line. And Silva played a ball out to Chilwell. This is from a free kick. So City are kind of pushed up high because they're set up to defend this. Silva passes it wide to Chilwell because they like to switch and play these diagonal passes. Chilwell's kind of isolated. His only real options at the time he gets there are going to be into Mount. Very difficult because you've got players trying to block that pass. Fernandinho's in here. And these guys are largely being looked after, Mount and Werner. So what Chilwell has to do is hope that he can get past roughly into Jorginho if he can get into here. Now, Kevin De Bruyne has started in this game but went off injured. Phil Foden came on and he makes a very crucial, easily done defensive error because he's so attack-minded. So Jorginho is here and he's got very clever movement. So he gets in here, manages to receive the ball from Chilwell, but sort of turns to his left, and Foden gets caught left side rather than goal side of him, because the obvious threat for Chelsea is they want to go forward, they want to go this way. But Foden gets caught trying to snap the ball here so he can steal it and run it goal. Makes sense. But Jorginho is able to easily spin him and has the ball here. And as soon as he does that, City are in a lot of trouble. Because what happens then is that Mount, so Cancelo pulls out on Chilwell when he gets the ball, and that leaves space here for Mount to move into, and Mount moves in here. And as soon as Jorginho has this, he plays the ball here, and the minute that happens, Werner is already looking to make this run. That's what he's going to do. Mount plays this ball. Werner times his run perfectly, gets onto it. Ziyech is alongside him, exactly the same as in the goal that was disallowed earlier. Stefan comes off his line and comes back a bit of an error. It's really unfortunate for him. And Werner just passes, because that's the safer option for him, to Ziyech, who then scores. And I mean, it's no huge tactical secret that against a high line you play a ball over the top. That's how you're going to score. But it's not like they're pumping balls long. They're shifting City around by switching diagonal balls, looking for someone in space. And often what you'll get is Chilwell would then switch that over to the other side, something like that. But they're always trying to move forward. And just that one little error from Foden allowed Mount to get into this space here because Jorginho was able to turn, and that's what got Werner away. And Chelsea are going to look to do that quite a lot. And that sort of brings us on nicely to Manchester City, actually. Now, the thing with Pep Guardiola and big Champions League games is that a lot of people expect him to do something kind of bananas, always pulls out some bizarre tactic in the big games that hasn't always gone entirely well. And there's something that in the 2 games that City have played against Chelsea under Tuchel that I think is interesting is that you've got Torres and Sterling have played in both games. And it's not because Guardiola is doing some mad tactical thing, but he's identified where all the space that he wants to attack is and has devised a way to play it. And there's a small chance, although I'm going to be proven very wrong on this, there's a small chance that I think these guys might even play in the final. I'm going to try and show you why. So we know how Chelsea play, right? We know how Chelsea are very aggressive and intense. Like they lost in the final to Leicester in the FA Cup. And then played them in the league, and they were so intense, so aggressive, like they wouldn't let them out. Everyone just pushing. Imagine this is Leicester, they just couldn't get out. Everyone was pushed back. Like just even like Azpilicueta played as right wing back in that game, and he just kept Mendy back. Mendy, the equivalent Leicester left back, I should say. So we know that when Chelsea play with this intensity, this aggression, they've got momentum. They're really hard to play against. They also have beaten Manchester City twice under Pep Guardiola. So Guardiola is trying to find a way to control the game, control the ball, but also what Guardiola is all about is finding, exploiting, utilising space. It's all about the space. This is one of the setups that they used against Chelsea, and this was in the 2-1 league defeat. And they played it's like a 5-1-2-2. So you see you've got Aguero, Jesus, Sterling and Torres, who you could say can all pretty much play the same system, same position, I should say. And weirdly for a Guardiola team, there was talk in the past that he'd like a team full of central midfielders. He only has one, and it was Rodri, played here, or Rodrigo, whatever you like to call him. And the idea is that Chelsea are going to press them high. We know that. So City are always going to play out from the back. They're always going to play out from the back. And although they're good at evading the press, they are, I mean, one of the best teams I think I've ever seen at getting out of a tight pressing situation. It's really hard to deal with any team who is very good at it, coordinated man-to-man, as Chelsea are. Playing out from the back is one of the things that would often happen. So we know that Chelsea press high in this sort of box shape. It's not always a box, sometimes it's a 3, but Kante lines up. So that's still, you can still see you've kind of got your box, and these are arrows, but you know, it's not a perfect box, but it's still that kind of idea. These guys are all here. Now, Ederson would step slightly out of goal and act as almost like an extra playmaker, and he would play to Laporte, say, and then Chelsea would naturally move up, and I think it was Pulisic played in this game rather than Ziyech, but regardless, Ake would pull out here almost like a left back, so you'd Laporte and Ederson are your 2 in the back, and then you'd have Diaz pulling it even further wide right. It's a little bit like, actually, there's a tactic that Julian Nagelsmann used at Hoffenheim about 3-4 seasons ago, and there's a video up in Tifo, which you can watch on it. It's a similar idea. The ball came out to Diaz, say. Werner's going to push him. Now Diaz in a bit of trouble here because Werner is really quick, and you know he's going to try and close him down. You've got Mount here floating about. That's not good either. Jorginho, whoever's in here, is going to be close to whoever's coming in around here. Now, naturally, you're going to have Cancelo coming short to offer an option, and that'll be the short pass. But if he passes here, Werner shots off that, and then he's just kind of in trouble. He's got no real way out of there whatsoever. So instead, what Guardiola has his team do, remember there's no real central midfield, is that he's going to aim, so Jesus here is going to come out here because that pulls Rudiger with him. So this run's really important, and they did this a lot, like from the start of the game and well on for it. Because we know that Chelsea press so aggressively, we know that Rudiger is going to follow Jesus out, and he does. So Jesus goes here, to look like he's offering a short passing option, and Rudiger follows him. But that allows Torres to go into this massive open bit of space. And so what Diaz is looking to do, he slams this lovely long ball around, sort of curls it round like this. So Diaz would play this ball, goes around, it looks like it's going to Jesus, but it's not. It actually sort of bounces over him at the halfway line, and then Torres comes in here, steals in, and gets him behind. And they did it the other way around as well. So same sort of thing, ball goes out to Diaz, he tries to win a bit of space on his right foot, and then he's going to knock this ball long. And this time it's Torres who drops short. Rudiger goes with him because that's the guy he's got, and that leaves room for Jesus to come in behind. Now straight away, that's left, it's Christensen who is the central defender in this game. And Christensen is 1-on-1 with Jesus in a foot race, also known as just a race. And he gets to here and he gets injured. I think he's really unlucky actually. He gets injured trying to jump up and does his hamstring or something like that. And Jesus is in. And now what he needs to do is look for a tap in, like a pass to a teammate, something like that. Aguero's up here, ball comes to him, Aguero takes a bad touch, but Sterling, and this is again why he's in here, because he can be here 1 second, where he is, but then in about 3 seconds, the boy's so fast, he's woof here, steals the ball off Aguero and finishes. And that's how City score. And it's clearly a tactic they've identified, they know where the space is against Chelsea. And the other problem is not just that that's where the space is, but if we set Chelsea up in their high press again, if City are able to get past the high press of Chelsea, if they pass along like this, and they're able to get through, say Sterling moves in here, and then you play through to a striker, what Chelsea do the minute that their high press is bypassed, they drop really, really deep. And they're very, very good at doing it. And the only player that really might stay up is probably Werner, because then Werner can make these runs, the in to out to in kind of runs in behind the high line. And as soon as you do this, I mean, you don't want to have your strikers in here. All your space is going to be in the wide areas. But how are you, if you're Manchester City and you've only got one striker, say, in the box, how are you going to get a ball from here if you've already got a good defender 1v1 with him? You're trying to get a 2v1, but someone will come out and help you out. You put a ball into the box, you can have one striker in the area. It's just not, it's not ideal. It's not a very conducive way to produce high probability chances of scoring. You know, your danger zone, discussed in other videos before, you want to get the ball roughly in this area here, because that's where you're going to score all your goals. Otherwise, it's a bit of luck, a genius long-range shot, something like that. That's where you want the ball. But if Chelsea have all of their players in that space, there's not much you can do. So these long passes out from the back it's not like Pep came up with some mad tactic, but it's something they did in the FA Cup semi-final with more of a 4-4-2 shape. And it's something they did in the 5-1-2-2 a lot. And it's why I've got a sneaking suspicion that this team sheet might look slightly different to what we might expect. However, the most probable team we're going to see from Manchester City is this 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 they play with false 9. This might be what we see from Manchester City in the Champions League final, which is the game we're talking about. I should remember that. This is 4-4-2, kind of a 4-2-3-1, 3-2-5. The numbers really don't matter. It changes all of the time. It moves around. It evolves constantly. It's very fluid, but also very tactically defined. And it involves a lot of these players that Guardiola loves, like Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, you get Phil Foden, Mahrez, Gundogan, people who are really, really good with the ball. Guardiola's big thing, other than looking after and finding space, is protecting against the counter-attack. One of the big things that he talked about it a lot during his time in Germany, where the counter-attack is all the rage. So having players like Silva, Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne means that you're going to be able to better control or protect against counterattacks because you're just so in control of the ball, if that kind of makes sense. You're not going to give it away so much. And the way it sort of works is that, if I will look at some of the things I think are going to happen. So Walker, I think, is going to play at right back because he is really fast. And that means that he's going to be able to deal with Timo Werner when he's getting to these positions. And when they're playing the high line, Walker's going to be the one that catches up with them. That's why he's going to be there. Now, the other thing is that City will transition into this sort of shape as they go forward. So the back four becomes a 3. And the reason I've got Laporte here is because he is left-footed. And I suspect, based on what we're looking at in the 5-1-2-2 earlier, to play these long balls out from the left, you need a left footer because it goes round the defender into these central areas. If you've got John Stones, who's played most of the season and has been, he's been brilliant this season. He's right-footed, and you got out, in to out rather than out to in, and it's going to make a difference in how they make those balls, especially when Chelsea push into wide areas. Again, might be horribly wrong, but that's why it will be if he is there. Anyway, Diaz is going to be there because he has to play because he's quick. Now Cancelo possibly might not play. even though he's been one of the best fullbacks in the league this season, one of City's best players, I'd even say, he isn't as good defensively as maybe Alexander Zinchenko. Zinchenko is also really good with the ball. Cancelo's great at making these attacking runs into midfield, so he starts at the left back, but he'll also move into midfield. So you get this kind of thing going on, and then you have Gundogan moving up here, so you have a 3 and a 2. So you can see how this can change between being a 3 and a 2. And if Gundogan comes in here as a 3, that means that Walker can then push around and overlap. You'd have a 2 and a 3. So their shape will change an awful lot depending on where they are, but mostly I think they're probably going to want to have a 3 because you want Walker in more central positions to deal with Werner's runs, especially when they push high up the pitch. So when you get up to like these positions here, you can have Diaz run a bit here, Walker's going to be level with Werner, and maybe Laporte here. Good in the ball, and Cancelo will probably move inside to midfield. Going by Rodri, put him here. This is what Chelsea, Man City are going to look a bit like when they move up the pitch. Gundogan moves into these sorts of areas. The midfield and the entire shape generally sort of changes. The big question for me over whether Rodri starts or Fernandinho, and I have a sneaking suspicion Fernandinho might get in, not for nostalgia reasons. One of Chelsea's best players, as we talked about earlier, is Mason Mount. He's very, very good on the ball, really intelligent movement, runs on the blind side of people an awful lot, just finds himself in space all the time. Fernandinho, not Rodri, but Fernandinho is incredibly cunning and devious. He has developed this special talent over many years where he can kick people a lot of times without getting booked for it, which is really useful because if you're trying to protect against counter-attack, you're going to want someone who can do that. And the time that Chelsea are going to play on the counter-attack is going to roughly be from the start. If Chelsea have a... yeah, he's going to want Fernandinho in there for that. Also, in the FA Cup semi-final, Fernandinho stayed tight to Mount the entire time and he kept kicking him. He's doing little sly things off the ball. Like he accidentally steps over him but leaves a bit of studs on him, stuff like that. The dark arts. And I wonder whether Guardiola will look to embrace that to try and prevent the counter-attack early in the move. Because Rodri is fantastic, like positionally fantastic, really useful in build-up to evade the press. Good range of passing as well. Tall, so good at set pieces for defending in theory. Not quite as fast as Fernandinho, not quite as quick, not quite as mobile, and that can make a big difference when you're playing against a team who are so dangerous in transition. But we'll say Rodri's starting for now because he's played most of the season, even though it sort of goes against what I'm thinking. Now, these false nines, I really love how Manchester City do this. Riyad Mahrez has been excellent all season long, and he will start wide right if this is the system they play. And that's going to drag someone like Chilwell back to him because he has to be here. He will now and again move inside to shoot. He's been fantastic. He's also hugely tactically disciplined defensively and stays tight to the unit. And they defend in a 4-4-2 out of possession an awful lot. And you see how that looks if you just drop in. So that's kind of what the 4-4-2 will look like out of possession. Man is really, really disciplined. Very individualistic player, but seems to have realised it doesn't matter how many goals or dribbles you do. If your team doesn't win, there's no point to it. The false nines, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. As we discussed, really good in the ball. De Bruyne is fantastic getting to these 10 positions. Really good in this wide right channel where he can hit that kind of dangerous ball into the box. This curling, that's his specialty. This is the one he likes, the one he's good at. That kind of ball in for a striker to get onto or something like that. But they'll start here out of possession as Chelsea try to build. And then one of them will drop into midfield and someone will go here, and that leaves room for Gundogan to come in here. That leaves room for Foden to come in here, even though Foden will be mostly wide left. It also means if Foden does come inside, that might mean that, oh, very quick. That might mean Cancelo can overlap him. And that again keeps your width, really important for Guardiola's side. You keep your width, it's going to stretch Chelsea out, even though Chelsea defend very compact. We saw how they defend a really deep, low, compact shape. It's basically like an accordion, so it goes really small and it comes out again really quickly. And they want to hit you really quickly in transition. But if you don't get them in time and they squeeze, then even though you've got all your width, it's going to be very difficult, like we mentioned earlier, to get anything in. Because people like James and Chilwell are decent 1v1. They can go past them sometimes. But it denies these spaces in the middle of the pitch that City are going to want to be able to use. And you've got Werner, obviously, keeping track of Mr. Walker over here. And Pulisic probably against Laporte. I'm not sure he's faster at stones Laporte. I'm not sure it's entirely relevant because I think one of these will have to drop in when they are defending. that's kind of how City's 4-4-2 works. The other benefit of it is that when they do defend, because of the shape they've got more coverage to block this sort of midfield area. So it could end up being, Silva's very unlikely to be there, but something like this. So when the ball turns over, where's the ball? We need a ball. Ball turns over, say around here, you get it to Mount, and Mount's going to want to be able to counter-attack, but they squeeze this space here, and you can't really get these balls. It's hard to get into Pulisic because he's marked here. They squeeze the space. Werner wants to make a run in, but Laporte's on him, or you've got Silva dropping back, or you've got Gundogan dropping back. It depends a lot. One of the best things about City, they've got great individual players, but they do all this like automated, as though you're playing like a computer at chess. It just automatically goes to the next piece of the puzzle. Is chess a puzzle? I don't know. It's a game. It's a sport. What is it? Doesn't matter. Guardiola loves it anyway. Not sure how relevant that is to all of this, but this is one of the things. I don't know if City are going to play their 4-4-2, which is probably their best team, because in this team, they don't have room for Raheem Sterling, who's really quick, misses a lot of chances, a bit like Timo Werner, but really useful on the counter and playing those balls over the top. And it also misses out on Ferran Torres, who you might not expect him to start because he's so young, seems so new to the team, but he's so quick. And that, tactically, as basic as it sounds, is incredibly, incredibly useful. Sergio Aguero's unlikely to start. Gabriel Jesus might come in because he can play as one of those false nines and drop about. Also really quick and hugely tactically disciplined when sticking to the press that City will play. The good thing is it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens, because I can't see any surprises from Tuchel. I can see Guardiola come out with some nuts, just some mad shit. No idea what he's going to do. It could go any which way. Chelsea have a big advantage in that they have already beaten them twice under Tuchel. But who's going to manage the pressure better on the day? That's going to be a very fascinating tactical battle, as we hinted it might be at the start of the video. This is a video. So yeah, like I said, I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to watch. And if you enjoy analysis like this, where I tell you that I don't know exactly what's going on, even though I'm trying very hard to tell you, subscribe to Tifo IRL. We're going to try and do loads of these during the Euros. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Have a lovely time.
If you like this video, please subscribe to Tifo to help us reach 1 million subscribers. The Athletic is where the Manchester United reporters revealed the truth behind the club's Jadon Sancho transfer fiasco, where the Tottenham reporters brought you news of Gareth Bale's return before anyone else, where the Chelsea reporters told us 3 days before his sacking that Frank Lampard was on the verge of losing his job. And you can try it now for free for 30 days. See the link in the description.